Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 ZOZO Championship. This is going to be the previews show, the picks, everything. I'm going to give you all the knowledge that I do have to share with you guys about the ZOZO Championship to help you with your DFS picks and, of course, any bets that you might be thinking of. It's going to be a little different show because of timing when information comes out and some lack of information that is out there. We're going to be doing things a little different, but I'm going to give you everything that I have to hopefully help you if you are going to, put any dollars on this golf event coming up. Okay, with that said, thank you for stopping by. Give me about 45 minutes or so, and hopefully after you watch this, you'll be a little better informed on who you might want to play in this upcoming event. All right, let's do this. Okay, so we are flying across the North Pacific, and we are heading over to Chiba, Japan. So the Las Vegas swing is over. The two putting contests are over. As I kind of mentioned, you had guys that were good ball strikers that the putters fired, and they won, right? We had Sungjae Im at Shriners, who is not playing in this. You had McIlroy, of course, and I'm not doing a recap. This is the recap you're getting, but who finally the putter heated up and with his scoring, and then of course the guy that I was on, Morikawa, just had kind of a lackluster Friday, and so. If he would have shot, a few more under on that, he would have won that tournament. But overall, had a great Sunday and came in second, but did not help my cause. So anyways, there's your recap. Now let's talk about the ZOZO. Okay, so they are going to a course called the ACCORDIA Golf Narshino Country Club. And so this event hosted the first ever ZOZO Championship in 2019. Of course, Tiger Woods won that event. They had some crazy storms. I believe some of the holes they had like alter where they put the tee boxes in the fairway, so like a par 4 and then became a par 3. And it was pretty crazy. But of course, due to COVID last year, it was at the Sherwood, and that was Patrick Cantlay won. But everything that I'm going to talk about here is focused on this course. It does no good to discuss the Sherwood Country Club because they are not there. And so this course is actually hosted also some multiple, Japan PGA events, like their Open or their PGA Championship and whatnot. The architect is Akinya Fujita, which really doesn't matter, and this course has been around since 1965. Okay, with that said, it is a par 70, and it's a little over 7,000 yards. So this is going to be totally different than what we've been seeing for the last couple. You're not going to have the 25 under. Typically, it's going to probably fall somewhere in between 18 under to 15 under is what I would see. All the places that I get my information regarding everything when it comes to the course was not released. Again, we're going to be actually lacking a lot of information because it is over in Japan. We're not getting stroke gain data. We're not getting a lot of the information. It's not going to be shown on PGA Live. So if you do what I do and watch that for all-day coverage, you're not going to get that. So the only thing I do have from that perspective is that everything I see is the greens is a pass palm. And if you're trying to figure out, what other courses have pass palm, funny enough, it's a bunch of island courses that we also don't get stroke gain data for. So if you think of like Mayakoba, like the OHL where they play, pretty much I call it the Bahamas or the Jamaican Open, where, you got Corrales, where they play in Punta Cana. A lot of the courses that sit by the ocean because of the salt water, they will put pass palm in. Funny enough, this course actually has the multi-green, which I guess they do quite a bit in Japan, and this is due to they try to play there almost year-round. And so, but I think it's just very interesting. Now, this course does sit on Tokyo Bay, but I wouldn't consider it like an island course, so it is just interesting that they have pass palm greens. And then if I think I'm correct, at Kiowa, I think that was a pass palm green. But again, really, it doesn't matter. The only thing I'm telling you this for is if you want to go look at guys who have won tournaments on pass palm greens, you could look at like Corrales, where you had Hudson Swafford won in 2020, and then I believe just recently was Joel Damon, right, won. I'm not even sure in the field off the top of my brain, but on that note, the player field is again what we just saw. It's a no-cut 78 players. Now we have had quite a few guys pull out of this tournament. I'll talk about that, but if you want to understand when it was played here previously, Tiger Woods, of course, as I mentioned, won, shooting 19 under. Runner-up was Matsuyama, shooting 16 under, which he is a local to Japan, from Japan. And then Sungjae Im, who's not in the field, but he shot 13 under. So that just gives you, ultimately, everything that I see about this course, we're going to talk about who we want to focus on, but it is a ball striking course, but it's really about who hits their best approach shots. There's really small greens. So you have to be very accurate on that note. So I'm not so much as concerned about the putting or everything else that I remember. Pretty flat greens, but they're just very small comparative to typical PGA Tour. Like we just saw greens that were over 7,000 square feet. I would guess these things are around somewhere around 5,000. So if you think of like a Pebble Beach per se. Also, from like usually I have the sand bunkers and water hazards, all that stuff for you guys. Again, none of that information. I wasn't going to go through and try to count sand bunkers, but everything that I've seen, there is quite a bit of sand. I know water does come and play on number 10 when you tee off on number 10, all on the left side. Hence, the picture is actually behind here, I believe, is number 10. If I remember right, I think Tiger Woods started on 10, and he actually bogeyed, and then went on a birdie streak, but threw it in the water on number 10. So course defense, funny enough, they do say that, there's forgiving fairways, but they are tree lined. There is elevations. There is some up and down, so you're going to have some uneven lies. And I already mentioned the small greens, and there is some weather forecast. I'll show you what I got for that. And then just some side notes regarding some of these guys that you're not going to know about. And you can, to some degree, you could probably dismiss a lot of these guys that play on the Japan PGA Tour. But there is a Shugo Imihara, who has won a tournament on the PGA Tour for Japan, and he has a top 10 finish. All that happened this year. You got this Kita Najima. That's not even close. Nakajima. There you go. He's the world top ranked amateur golfer. And then also last year's top amateur golfer, this Takumi Kanya, is also in the field. So there's just some names that I thought, I'd pull out if you are trying to get entrance, right? That we had that was it Shunjun Kim that popped up and was up in the leaderboard for the recent CJ Cup. So it's not going to shock me if one of these guys could be in the top 10. So those are some of the guys. If there was going to be a guy in the top 10, these are the guys that could probably do that for you. All right, so let's take a look at the course and talk a little bit about it. So over on this side, you got the overhead view. You can see water, and this should not be number 10. So it looks like you maybe have two holes for sure that water comes into play that can, bother the drive, or maybe there's some around a green, which you can see illustrated here. And I believe this is 10. It is a dogleg left. But it gives you a good understanding. I mean, this green doesn't look, or these fairways don't look that large, at least on this hole. But it's, if you think of an RBC Heritage, if you think of Colonial, those kind of courses is what pretty much they're going to be playing. And I'm going to talk about comp courses to help you guys also do some of your own homework if you'd like to figure out some guys that have done well on these kind of tracks, these shorter, more, I don't want to say a plotter, but you definitely, you've got to be really good with the irons and good putters. I think it was the guys that would do well here. And again, this would just give you an understanding of that 2-green system that they implement. And like I said, I mean, I'm sure once because they have a constant weather, unless something goes crazy like it did last time, they'll stick and keep the flags on just one of the greens throughout the tournament. And then just some field updates, just so you guys know, quite a few guys, as I mentioned, did pull out of this. I mean, you got to think about it, right? I don't know what the travel restrictions are, but, this could have a part of it. Also, you're talking, it's, if you played at the CJ Cup and then try to jump on a plane and head over, which quite a few of these guys did that are on this list, that can make it very difficult. And they might have a waiting period due to COVID. I don't know. But just so you know, Harold Varner's out, Schwartzel, Walker, Casey, all guys. I mean, Paul Casey would have been a good play, I think. Kevin Na would have been a good play. Even maybe Harold Varner. Walker's been actually amazing up and playing some decent golf. And then you got these guys from the Japan Tour filling in. And just a side note, Sean Norris, who you would have seen on the PGA Tour, is min price 6,000 on DFS. And I think he could be an interesting play, and I'll talk about it a little bit when we get into the analysis. And then this is the weather forecast coming from the PGA Tour. You can see they're going to have rain pretty much all day today. And a note to self, this tournament starts Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern, right? Because they're 12 hours ahead. So, it'll show on DFS. But again, if you're listening to this, start thinking about putting your lineups in now, because this is not a Thursday morning start. And we were getting, because of Vegas, if you're on the East Coast, you were getting the Thursday, 10:30 a.m. So you had time to even put lineups in the morning. From from a weather perspective, it's showing, they are going to have some wind, it looks like, on Wednesday. Could have some rain on Friday. Again, I'm honestly probably not going to do a ton from a DFS perspective on this. Usually I do showdown. I'm probably going to put some bets in, put in some, teams in the big thing and call it a day, because it's just, even from a coverage standpoint, as I mentioned, PGA Live is not covering this tournament. We were only getting Thursday, Friday as it was, but now we're not even getting that. So literally you're getting Golf Channel coverage. So you're getting, I guess on a positive note, you're getting primetime golf, because it's starting at 7:30 at night and probably run to, I don't know, they do their typical 3-4 hours to around 10:30, 11. So that's kind of interesting. But like I said, I just think from my perspective, I probably am not going to have a ton invested in this. But you guys, of course, depending on what you're doing, and also from the betting odds, I was not excited about some of the odds they had from a betting perspective. They really kind of just vanillaed it, which is interesting. And this is a side note. Sean Norris, well, let's just talk about him now. So Sean Norris actually just won an event on the Japan PGA Tour, their most recent event. And like I said, he is bare min. But if you go, even Vegas is smart enough to know that, and they've got him at 100-1 odds, which from our Sean Norris, that's crazy that his odds are that low. So that is also the perspective from the betting side. But I think, again, could be a really good play and a sneaky play because I think it's a stars and scrubs kind of build if you are doing DFS. And we'll talk a little about that. Okay, so let's break down the scorecard. This will give you a little more understanding about the golf course. And one thing I didn't mention, there is some YouTube coverage. If you type into YouTube 2019 ZOZO Championship Round 1 highlights or Round 2 highlights, I recommend that. If you've never seen the course, it'll give you a way better understanding than, of course, what I can do with a few pictures. But anyways, I always say that. So check that out on YouTube. Go check out the, you don't want to look at the 2020. That'll be Sherwood. You want to look at 2019, which that will be ACCORDIA. Okay, so what's interesting about this course is pretty unique for a par 70 is that it's got actually 5 par 3s. So typically you'd have 4 par 3s, 2 par 5s. Here they actually have 3 par 5s and 5 par 3s. So again, back to the guys that hit really good irons are going to be very prevalent here because you're going to have to be either, par or gain strokes on par 3s. And you can see there is 6 birdie opportunities on number 6, 8, and 10. And then you got it again, good birdie opportunities on 13, that's short par 3. They're, a 600-yard par 5, but, guys, again, on par 5s from PGA Pros, that is very doable. And then, which is, I think, very interesting, is the finishing hole, like what we just saw, is a birdie opportunity, which, it could come down to that final hole. So that would be interesting. And again, it's not the gentlest of handshake to start off. But your scoring opportunities seem like they kind of come end of your first 9 and kind of mid-end of your back. I did reference this against the official scorecard just released, and actually nothing's changed at all from a yardage or anything. So all that is pretty good. So if you're just trying to figure out in your own mind of how the holes kind of play, you are good to go. Okay, so on one thing, what we can do is, we can look at the guys from a stroke gain analysis ranking that have done well over the last few tournaments. And so how I break this down on what I think you need to do very well to win the ZOZO at ACCORDIA, you need, first and foremost, you got to be awesome on approach. I'm not worried about distance at all here. I think almost like what I do at RBC, I always use good drives. And what does that mean? It means it emphasizes the guys that are hitting fairways or the first cut and then can hit the green on their approach. So it's kind of a combination. It doesn't, like, off the tee takes in to distance and accuracy, where this takes in more a play of, hey, you are hitting the green on your approach every time, no matter if you're in the fairway or just off maybe the first cut. Ball striking, if you look at the past winners and the guys that did well here in 2019, Tiger Woods, one of probably the best ball striker we've ever seen. Hideki Matsuyama, again, not the best putter, but an amazing ball striker, and Sungjae Im. So if you take the top 3 guys, you can learn a little something about it just from looking at it that way. Of course, you're always going to need putting, just like we just saw with Sungjae Im and Rory. You know, the guys that hit the ball well, but then their putter goes off. That's a deadly combination. You are going to need to be good around the greens because they are so small. Also, you're going to, you know, if you get a little wayward here, you're going to have some trees. Good in scrambling. You're still going to need to make birdies, so we'll look at that. And then again, par 3 efficiency. So this is probably one of the more simplified models, and a bit of this is due because I just don't know the actual, you know, I could figure out, but the whole proximities and percents. But I'm trying to keep it a little more simplified for this, so that's what we're going to go with. So that said, if you plug that in, so here is my larger model that is not that large, and just look at recent form, so no filters put on. What we're looking at is stroke gain data purely over their last 12 rounds of golf, which that is typically 3 tournaments, so the last 3 tournaments. And I weighted approach very heavy, as I mentioned. Good drives at 15, ball striking at 10, 15% on par 3, stroke gain on par 3s versus the field. Putting at 10. Green and reg does show up quite a bit here. It really, you're kind of just doubling down on approach, but I threw that in here because it is actually a stat that they tracked or could keep track of because they don't do stroke gain data over in Japan. At least they don't fly over there to do it. And then around the green and scrambling, you plug all that in. And the top 20 guys that fit my model, number 1 is Will Z. Even though he missed a cut, I believe, at Shriners, he's still over his last 12 rounds has been crushing it in those categories. Occasionally, a really good elite ball striker, Norlander, CT Pan, Grios, all these guys do well on approach. I mean, what you can see is funny enough from a putting perspective, because I didn't weigh it as heavy as everything else. That you're getting guys that are not the greatest putters, like Wes Bryant, who could be literally the worst putter, but like Patty Perez, Luke List, Lanto Griffin is shown back up, Hideki Matsuyama, Molinari. So anyways, just to give you guys some recent form guys that have done well, a list of top 20. And then one thing that you can look at is, when you don't have information on, like what we're dealing with, especially, like I said, when you do the kind of the Bermuda, Bahama swing, we have to do a lot of the comparable course stuff that we can. Here's some courses that I pulled up that I think some play very much alike, but are, par 70s, less than 7,200 yards. I think Colonial is one of the better. I also think the old white TPC course where they play the military tribute, the Greenbrier. PGA National, it's got a bit of water, right? But it also is a kind of a similar course. Wyndham, I think, is probably a little easier. Sedgefield. I think RBC Heritage, which off the top of my head, I don't know if that's a par 71 or 70, but I think it's very similar how it plays. And then you got the RSM at Sea Island. So looking at, if you kind of take some of those comparable courses and just go off that and put that same model against, over the last 12 events they've had there. So you got to remember, so this isn't their last 12 tournaments. This is the last 12 times or the last 3 tournaments they played on these courses. Brendan Steele comes up, which that makes a little bit of sense. Like Morikawa, Todd, Neiman, some of these guys have done well at these courses. So, I like the way that looks. But again, to give you the top 20 guys, if you take comparable courses from a stroke gain data. So the next thing I thought, which would make sense for you guys, is who's been the best with their irons over the last 3 tournaments. Again, this is strictly looking at the guys on approach. And again, no shocker, Kyle Stanley comes up. But again, literally the worst putter. You can see, out of this field. And again, a lot of the guys on the Japan tour, we're not going to get their data. But, we'll just say out of 100, he's, less than mid-50. But I mean, Kyle Stanley, if he could just go neutral with the putter, could be a great play here. And also, like I said, from a DFS perspective, if you're putting a bunch of teams in, I think, it makes total sense. Keegan Bradley, right? An amazing ball striker. That's a crazy price tag for Keegan Bradley, but, especially with some of the guys that have dropped out. So one thing is with those guys dropping out, it kind of helps some of these guys from a pricing perspective. Trying to see who else here that makes sense. I think CT Pan's going to be interesting. EVR, right? He had a terrible at Shriners, but then had a pretty good showing here at the CJ Cup, if my memory serves me right. Ryan Palmer, if you didn't get to watch him play at the Shriners, I did get to watch quite a bit of him. He actually struck the ball really well. He just was terrible with the putter. I'm talking like missing 3-footers, terrible. But anyways, that gives you some guys, if you're trying to figure out who's elite with the irons. Okay, so with that said, I'm not going to be doing summarizing. We're really just going to go jump over into Fantasy National. I'm going to kind of plow through the field and pick some of my favorites for you guys, and then let you guys take that information and do what you want with that. But that's the way that this is going to run today, just again from a timing perspective. So let's go do that. Okay, so we are over in Fantasy National, and give you some background on what we're looking at here. If you are new and have never watched my show before, for the guys that have been here, you know this down pat. But for the new people, this is all based on DraftKings pricing. Of course, Fantasy National is a pure model analysis research tool that is specific for golf. So again, if you're doing your own analysis and you're getting into it, I highly recommend trying it out. Again, Fantasy National Golf Club. And what we're going to be looking at here is the last 12 rounds. So everything that I focus on is recent form when doing analysis at this level. And then what you're able to do is this kind of what they call a sneak peek. And it gives you a nice dashboard, which makes it easy for me to share with you guys on the key things that I want to look at. So first thing, I built a smaller model. And again, as I already mentioned, approach is number one. Ball striking, that's, as you see, taking strokes gain off the tee and approach. So you're kind of, again, doubling up on approach. I'm putting in good drives again because I need guys that keep it in play for opportunities here. You can see the putter, and then par three gaining strokes against the field on par threes. This is how many birdies have they gained over the last 12 rounds. And so you want to look at guys that are green mostly. And then you got recent results and tournament history. Again, you do not want to care about what happened in 2021, but 2020 makes total sense. Okay, so that said, if you kind of look at this from a DraftKings perspective, you've got, you did have 5 guys that were 10,000 and above. Oh, I take it back. Tommy Fleetwood was in there. I didn't know that. All right, he has 6 guys, but you can get rid of Paul Casey because he is not going to be in the tournament. So, and then I would also remove Tommy Fleetwood just because, as you can see, he's making cuts, but he's just not doing anything. And for 10,000, there's no way I'm paying for that. So really, you got to make a decision at the top. And how I would probably build my lineups is honestly, I'd probably be plugging 2 of these guys in and then figuring it out from there. And so, I mean, off the gate, I mean, Colin Morikawa, you can look at it from a perspective of, he came close to just winning. He had to get on a plane, and he's playing golf real soon. And so, but he has played at this track back in 2020, which is kind of interesting, but he has played here before. If I had to pick and give you my recommendations or predictions on who out of these 4 who I would go with, honestly, I would probably end up going with Morikawa. And, I like Hideki here. But his recent form has kind of not been where I'd want it. So I'd probably go with the 2 young guys. I think Xander is very viable too, but I mean, if I had to make my selection, and we can go ahead and, look at some of these guys from a comparable course, but first thing you got to do is figure out from the top who you like. And that would be my 2. Okay, so let's click on Morikawa and just do a little deeper dive. I think we have a pretty good understanding, but you can see, Morikawa had that little back issue. Of course, as I mentioned previously, after we saw with the rider, he was back to 100% Morikawa, and he, like I said, almost won the CJ Cup. And so you kind of got to take these results at the FedEx Cup playoffs and just throw them out the window. All right, if we want to look at, see what he did at the St. Jude. So he had 26 here. That was a WGC. He played the Charles Schwab. He had a 14th, so that's at Colonial. And he had a 2nd there. So he does well on tight courses, small greens. What about the Greenbrier? He's not played. All right. He's not played the Honda. What about Wyndham? Played the Wyndham at Sedgefield back on the 2019, so that's a while ago. RBC. He had a 7th and a 64 again. Can handle himself, of course, on tighter courses. Hits a ton of fairways, and of course, we know he's elite with the irons. And he, of course, has never played RSM because that's just not the kind of tournament that he would play. Okay, let's go check out Will Z. And again, you can see, funny enough, Morikawa comes up 49th in my model, but of course, we got to remove a lot of that data that is getting pulled in because it's from the FedEx Cup playoffs where he was hurt. Will Z now on the flip side has been playing really good golf, but did miss a cut at the Shriners, but comes up 2nd in the model. So he's had, been in pretty good form except for that recent cut. And you can see, just didn't do a whole lot, but definitely the putter is what hurt him, and which typically can be. You can see, he was actually putting, over the Sanderson Farms, the Fortinet, the Wyndham, WGC. The putter actually heated up, and so hopefully he gets that back. So, of course, I don't even need to put in this. We can see he had an 8th at TPC Southwind, which again I think is a good, pretty good representation of what we're looking at. Let's see, did he play Charles Schwab? He did. He had a 59th right here. What about Greenbrier? I don't know if he's ever played there. The Honda? Nope. What about Wyndham recently? Had a 29th at Sedgefield. Has he ever played at Harbortown? He did. He had a 42nd back in April. And then the RSM, he does not play in. And probably a lot of these guys. I mean, some of these guys might. But so anyways, my recommendation, if you're picking from the 10,000 range, who I like I said, Casey's gone. Fleetwood has just shown me nothing. His course could fit him as he's done well at Honda. But, you can see the putter. I mean, at the Ryder Cup, the putter kind of showed up a little more, but that was the Ryder Cup. But, yeah, the two guys that I would go with is Colin and Will Z at the top. Okay. Then you kind of scroll through. Then we get in the 9,000 range. Of course, Ricky Fowler. I need to see more. I mean, everybody is hyped. The guy just struck the ball elite. The putter kind of let him down on Sunday, which typically did happen to Ricky when he was in contention. Even prior to the previous 2 years, he would struggle on Sundays when going in with a lead. For $9,800 to play Ricky Fowler now, I can't do it. Now you got to make your own decision on that. Joaquin Niemann has just been uninspiring. So, again, waiting for his game to kind of show. I mean, you can see recent results. His best finish is a 29th. So again, for almost 10,000, no, thank you. I actually picked Alex Noren last week, but he, did not do what I was hoping. But you can see he fits some of the areas. He's showing up as one of the better putters over the last few rounds few tournaments he's played. Gains on par 3, he's a good driver, but I don't like where the ball striking the approach is, so I'm out. So I'm going a little off the cuff here, and I'm going with Siwoo Kim. And the reason why is I know, again, Siwoo Kim can just at any time just flick it right back over. And so I think he ended up, almost the worst in the field out of the CJ Cup. And I also think a lot of people are going to be down on him. But if we go look at some of the comparables, I mean, this is not a Pete Dye course, but where I think, he could do well, like at Wyndham, just a smaller, tighter track. He is still an elite ball striker. And if the putter does the 3 strokes or, 2 strokes, and he's not losing 5 strokes or 7 strokes, he'll be fine. And it's small greens. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about the putter. I don't know. Did he play? Let me see. Let me type it in this way. So at TPC Southland, he had a 65th for that place. What about Charles Schwab? The miscut there a couple times, so not very good at Colonial. Greenbrier miscut, but that was a while ago. What about the Honda miscut? I'm making a really good case. Okay, you can see at the Wyndham, he just does well there. So he's a fan of that course, so keep that. What about RBC? He's had a 2nd, a 14th. So again, I think a pretty good reference, a 33rd recently, and a RSM. So a couple misses. So, I mean, you could definitely make a case for not playing Siwoo. Again, I'm not super excited about that price tag, but I also know that Siwoo could kick that switch. And, again, from a DFS perspective, putting in quite a few lineups, I wouldn't mind to play Siwoo. EVR, right? I mean, here's a guy that you're talking about can't get right. So I think I picked him coming off the FedEx playoffs. The first tournament was the Shriners, and he went out and just was terrible, missed a cut. And then I think I was off him for the CJ Cup and comes back and shoots, and has a T25. But he does everything that I like. I think it's interesting that they're ranking him number 1 in this field for good drives. Now, again, this is over the past 3 tournaments, so he has, of course, struck the driver well. We can go look at that. But he can also get wayward with the driver. You see, off the tee right now, he's gained in all events except the Tour Championship. But, you know, he's done pretty well with the irons, and he can get hot with the putter. Let's go look at some comparables. So did he play? He did not play the WGC at St. Jude this year, but previous he had a 20th. What about Charles Schwab? Again, that was a year ago, miscut. Greenbrier, no. Honda? He ended up 60th at PGA National. What about Wyndham? He had a 37th RBC. He had a 21st back in 2020. And then what about RSM? That's interesting. Nobody wants to play in the old RSM Classic. But anyways, I like him. Actually, Siwoo has played. Let me think about this. So now that would be ACCORDIA. So he had a T37th previously at this course. So just note to self. I'm going to try to remember to look at that for you guys. All right, Keegan, great ball striker. You know, I can see it. It's just some of these prices, like I said, it's hard. Matt McNeely actually could be a really good play here. I did not highlight him, but for a guy that let's just go look at some of his information real quick. All right, we're not going to be able to see what they've done on Paspalum. But if you want a good reference, I would use Bermuda. Is the grass type that is probably closest to a Paspalum. What I wanted to look at here is approach. Yeah, so kind of on and off. But, you know, again, McNeely, I just think of POA, West Coast. I'm playing Matt McNeely, but he's been playing good golf. The next guy I'm following to is Emiliano Grillo, right? He had that amazing Sunday shot. I think he shot the best round at 11 under. You know, kind of unforgotten because he came so far from the pack to end up at a T18. I did not have him in Showdown, which, you know, if I would have had him instead of, I think I went with Homa, I would have done very well. Still did well, but he was my missing link, if you were to say. And usually I'm an Emiliano Grillo fan because the guy is just so, either he's going to go shoot 8 to 10 under or he's going to go shoot 3 over, right? I mean, but you can see the model likes him. And I just think elite ball striking, elite on approach, it's, of course, the putter's got to go. And if the putter pops, you know, you're doing well. And right, you got those 5 par 3s. I need someone that does well. You know, Adam Scott, if you ever wanted to think of a course that has a lot of par 3s that you need to do well on, Adam Scott, I have not even verified this, but I know that guy's got to be leading on par 3 scoring. The guy is just ridiculous. Okay, so let's click on Grillo and just go look at some of the comparables for him. You know, no shocker, I've already said it's the putter. So if he gets that right, just goes even or just gains like a half stroke with a putter, he will definitely top 10. Let's go see WGC St. Jude. Did not play anytime recent, so we're not going to worry about that. What about Charles Schwab? So at Colonial just recently had an 8th. He's kind of a mixed bag, right? A 3rd. So he's done pretty well at Colonial. I'd give that like a B. But that's a good comparable. What about Greenbrier? No. What about Honda? He miscut, but that was back in 2020. How do you do a Wyndham? Miscut. He didn't play us 2017. RBC. So there you go. Again, tight course. I think RBC is a great fit for this. So I like that, how that plays out. And then what about RSM? That's a while ago. I mean, it's a year ago, 2020, but also good. So again, I like the, you know, he's coming off a super hot Sunday. And the first thing I think about is who's the best iron players I can think of. That's the guys I want to play. Mackenzie Hughes just doesn't do everything from tee to green that I need. You know, funny, I think a lot of talk about Vegas. This does not seem like the course for me for Jonathan Vegas. You know, not bad with the irons, but he's got length and could get wayward. That could get you in a lot of trouble here. The putting into par 3. So I'm no thank you on him. But CT Pan, been playing really good golf. And I believe he's played here before. Yep, he had a T59 this last time here, but you can see the birdies are going nutty. And the guy's just steady. And if I remember correctly, I think CT Pan's only win was at RBC. Let's go verify that. Yep, back in 2019. He had a win, miscut recently, but can definitely play that, you know, that type of golf course. Just looking at St. Jude, nothing really right home about there. Charles Schwab, he had a 32nd here recently, a 3rd prior to that. Greenbrier, a 39th, but that was a while ago. He played the Honda. So yeah, he had a third at Honda at PGA National. I forgot about that, but of course he popped with the putter, and I believe that is Bermuda. So again, I think Bermuda is the closest cousin to the past Palm. So you could say something for that. What about? Did I already look at Wyndham? Wyndham, he's had a second and a 29th recently. RBC, we already did that one, and RSM. A couple of miscuts, but then before that, he had a 6th and a 13th. So I like CT Pan. The model likes him too, but I like the way he's been bringing. KH Lee, it looks like DraftKings pricing finally kind of caught up with what KH Lee's been doing here. Of course, he's got that win at the Byron Nelson not too long ago. But he's been just striking the crap out of the ball and does everything. He's been making birdies, good recent form. Go click on some KH Lee and see what we've got from a comparable side. So WGC St. Jude had a 54th. Just seeing he really didn't do anything very well there. So shocked he even made the cut. Let's look at the Charles Schwab. He had a miscut, a 64th. What about Greenbrier? Played it once, had a miscut. That was a while ago. The Honda, he's had a 7th, but also a miscut recently. What about Wyndham? He had a 24th at Sedgefield recently. RBC, I'll give that like a C. And RSM. So he's had a 5th at Sea Island, but a couple miscuts. So, kind of a mixed bag. But I like the game he's bringing, and so we'll go with that. No, thank you on Ortiz. Just has not been performing, and Charlie Hoffman. I don't know. Charlie Hoffman's a decent showdown play. He just since the Texas swing, he just hasn't done much. I put him almost with Ryan Palmer. Alonzo Griffin's kind of interesting. That's a huge price bump for him too. I mean, all the pricing is ridiculous, especially for a no cut event that has this kind of money tied to it. I think winner gets 1.7 million. And I think it's just a travel that you're just not getting the field that wants to go, with that crazy season and FedEx and you had the Ryder Cup. Usually have a little better turnout for the ZOZO. Adam Schenk, I think, I should have him clicked. I was all over him. He came close to getting a win at Shriners. He's played her before. He's had a T22. The guy's been elite. For 8,200, he's probably a better play than, you could even say the CT Pan or KH Lee. So, okay. So take a look at Adam Schenk. Some of his, he's done pretty well in Bermuda. He's gained strokes on the field against that. You see the putter has been doing well. I mean, where he's had some really good finishes. He had to gain quite a bit with the putter, but, he also gained quite a bit with the irons at Shriners. Gained quite a bit at the Barbasol with the irons. So it is a little hit and miss with him, but, I like what his game's been showing, what you got from a field perspective. Did not play into St. Jude. What about Charles Schwab? He had a 65th. What about Greenbrier? Miscuts. What about Honda? 36 recently. The Wyndham, a miscut, a 51. And then RBC Heritage, a 21st. That's not bad. And then RSM, it seems like that'd be kind of his jam. A 23rd, a 48th, and a couple miscuts. So, something to take a look at. Who else I think could be a pretty good play? We'll kind of keep scrolling. So this was both. So I like Norlander. Brendan Todd could actually be an interesting. He's kind of been a miscut or right there, but this is definitely a Brendan Todd kind of course. So. But honestly, the guy that I would, rather play, you could see ownership's kind of low, but if you're looking for a differentiation, Brendan Todd could be a good play. And you see he does the things that you want. You also see he is making some birdies. And remember, you're getting 4 days of these guys, so you do, kind of the same mental thought we had for the CJ Cup. Play guys that can get streaky and make a lot of, birdies. So the next guy I would go at 7,400. Hendrik Norlander, almost pulled it out at the Sanderson Farms. He's never played at ACCORDIA. Let's go see. We take a look at him. I mean, Bermuda's his least worst surface over his career. And went in Fuego with the irons at Barbasol and the Sanderson Farms. But you can kind of see they a little bit come and go, which is interesting. I don't think he played at the WGC St. Jude, but what about Charles Schwab? He had a 50th. Greenbrier, a couple miscuts. What about the Honda? Miscuts. I don't think we're going to find things probably too favorable. Wyndham, a 59th and a 16. What about RBC? No. And RSM. It's been a while, but he's had a couple good showings there at Sea Island. I mean, a lot of it with him is going to be recent form. You know, Munoz, I'm a big fan. That's a good risk play. I mean, that's a, you know, let's just go take a look at him because he did have a little bit of a resurgence here recently. So he actually started to gain with the irons again. I mean, you can see just had a meltdown for his last 3 tournaments. But before that, was playing good golf. You know, went in Fuego at the John Deere with the putter. I think the first day he drained like everything. You know, had a pretty decent FedEx Cup. But then I don't know what happened after the BMW. He had that little bit of a break and then came out and was just terrible. But if you're playing quite a few lineups from a DFS perspective, for 7,300, Sebastian Munoz, I probably have had this conversation before. If you start to look at the guys that are above him, like a Keegan Bradley for 9,400, I don't think that makes sense. Or Alex Noren for 9,700. Ricky Fowler, 98. I mean, it's almost like sucker bets. It's like, hey, this guy just peaked. You know, play him. But if you went and looked at Sebastian Munoz's pedigree, let's just go on positions. So, I mean, he had a 3rd at the Charles Schwab here recently. He had a 4th at John Deere recently. He had a 9th at Valero. Again, this is all within the recent Tournament of Championships, which is the top 40 players. He had a 17th. The Northern Trust, which is a FedEx event, he had a 21st. WGC Mexico, that would have been a Florida at the concession. He had a 22nd. So I guarantee if I go look at those other guys' top 10s over the last, or top 20s, you know, we could do it. It's for fun while we're here. Let's go look at Keegan Bradley at 9,400. Because they are kind of the same player, I think. I think they're very good tee to green. It's what happens with that putter. Okay. So you can look at Keegan Bradley. He had a 2nd at Valspar, and that's really it. That's the last time. And then Sanderson Farms, a while back, he popped up. So that would have been like 2000, right here, 2020. He had a 4th. That's it. So, I mean, I'm sorry, 9,400 for Keegan Bradley. And if you can get Sebastian Munoz at 7,300, I would take that all day. So you know what? We're going to click on him. I'm going to play him. I talked myself into playing some Munoz. Okay. Next guy, Pat Perez. I think it's a good play. How many guys I got here selected now? Because I don't want to get you guys. Okay, that's it. We're not selecting anymore. Because this is going to give you guys my value plays with also my top core 15. And I'm not going to I'll summarize it after, but I didn't have time to do the usual as I do. Patty Perez, right? I mean, he's played her before. He had a 51st. He's had these 2 good showings, but he had a couple miscuts. And then I don't know if he withdrew. Of course, he lives in Vegas. And I think he just knew that he wasn't, I think he played like 12 holes, something like that, if I remember right. And he just said, I'm out. I'm going to go to the bar, go gamble. I don't think he's going to do that in Japan, but you're getting 4 days of them. I think, Patty Perez can get hot with the putter. He's not a bad putter to begin with. You can see Bermuda is his best putting surface, which again, I think is pretty close to past Palm. We can go look at, well, you know what? Let's just do it a different way with him. Let's go see where he's done some of his damage. So if I click on that same thing, see if anything pops up that looks interesting. Okay, it's all been a while ago. I mean, all right, let's not do that because everything is so far back, it really doesn't make sense. So let's just do it this way. Did he play at St. Jude? Nope. What about Charles Schwab? So he had a 45th at Colonial here recently. When I say recent, within the last 6 months. Greenbrier, that's been a long time. What about Honda? He had a 46. That's back in the spring of this year. Let me do that again because he actually had a 4th. I mean, that's a long time ago. That was back in the day when Perez, I guess, was really good or pretty good. What do you want to say? Nothing at the Wyndham. RBC, nothing great. RSM. Okay. The only deal with Pat Perez, I've told you guys this before, but if you're new, I think he's a lot like Koepka. If Pat Perez comes out and has a good Thursday, Friday, now this is nothing about, he's not going to cut and he ain't going to quit. But what I've seen with him is if he has a good Thursday, then you're good to go for the weekend. And I'm saying more from a mental, not like, oh, you know, of course, if anybody has a bad Thursday, they can miss the cut. I'm saying this guy mentally, I think, checks out like I think Koepka does if he has a bad opening round one. So that's the only thing I would say to keep an eye on. All right, kind of scooting along. I think Brendan Steele, just as a side note, is not a bad play. I think Doug Gim is not a bad play. Great ball striker. I think Brendan Steele, let's click on him. This course just kind of fits what he does. I mean, we can just go see where he's had his best. So at the Safeway, which is not a bad comparable course. The Honda, which we were looking at, he's done well there a couple times. See where else he's had some of his better finishes. The Honda again. Well, he likes playing the Honda. PGA National. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I'm just telling you, I'd plug him in a few. Troy Merritt, I thought would be an interesting play. For me, he's kind of like the cheap Corey Connors. I think he hits fairways typically. He can get pretty good with the irons. He's played here before. He had a T30 at this course, not Sherwood. Let me go click on Mr. Troy Merritt. I just want to, because he was doing pretty well there. Yeah, he had that second loss to Cameron Davis in the playoffs at the Rocket. Had a good showing at the Charles Schwab, a good showing at Byron Nelson, Valspar. You see it kind of fell off a little bit and has some miscuts. But, popped back up at the Safeway, the Fortinet Championship. Let's go see. I don't think he played. No, he did not play at St. Jude. Charles Schwab. I think I already mentioned that. He had a 7th at Colonial, which I like recently. Not so good. I mean, kind of a mixed bag, Greenbrier. What about at PGA National? Miscut. Nothing great there. What about Wyndham? Mostly I'm just looking for recent stuff. Sedgefield, no. How's he do at RBC? I really think that's a good barometer. So there you go. I mean, it's a little past, but he has had some good results at Harbortown. And then RSM, miscut. But, whatever, kind of a mixed bag. I don't know. I like Troy Merritt for 6,900. Kind of getting to my value plays now. Roger Sloan, I'm not going to go into detail with him. I just think it's kind of a boomer bust. Sam Ryder, you can see he's been making a lot of, playing decent golf. And I highly recommend him. I'm going to kind of go through these guys quick. Andrew Putnam has been playing pretty decent golf. Good putter. You got Brandon Hagee here. Great with a driver, which usually, but you know what? I don't know. I think I was literally looking at Brandon Hagee. I don't think I would play Brandon Hagee. I'm going to retract that one. But Peter Molinari at 6,600. This is his time of the year. He does well in the fall. Either can be a very good putter. I'm kind of shocked that. Let me pull that up here. So you can see, typically over his career, gains almost a half stroke on the field on Bermuda. This is what I was interested in. Usually that's where the guy kind of makes his bread and butter. But he's been doing good with the irons. It's been kind of hit or miss with the putter. So somebody you might want to think about plugging into. And Sadoshi Gadire, I got him highlighted. So I think right now I've only got one bet. And my one bet in right now is Sadoshi Gadire to win. I think it's 200 or 300 to 1 when I got it in. Also, first round leader, right? I've talked, if you've been watching my show for a while, he's won a couple first round leaders. The guy can get in Fuego hot, and he was going nuts with the putter for a bit. He also is typically, so he had this streak right here. So this is back, May, June timeframe, right? Where he just started to make putts, was good tee to green. He popped up again at the Barbasol. Nothing real recent, but hey, man, I mean, I think it's kind of a sneaky play. So I like Sadoshi. Sun King, the model likes him, and he's been playing good golf. He's played here before at a T17th. Again, been really good on approach. And I want to see what he's been doing with the putter real quick. that's typically where. So yeah, you can see. I mean, real good with the irons and the putting. It's just off the tee, can go a little either way. So I like Sun King and Kyle Stanley. This is purely elite ball striker. If he could just make some putts, could be very live. And then I think I mentioned, you got Wes Bryant. He's coming back from an injury, but again, for bare men, could be pretty interesting. And then Sean Norris, as I mentioned, just won over there on Japan Tour, and for bare men, could be pretty interesting. So let's summarize this for you guys so you have it. Who did I end up with? I got 21. So really it should be 20 guys, but I'll give you an extra. All right. So from the very top, my two guys I plug in. And again, for lineups that I will put into this, I'm going to go stars and scrubs. That's just, you're getting 4 days. So just look for guys that could just, make a bunch of birdies no matter where they finish. So you got Morikawa, Will Z, your top two guys in. Kind of filling that upper tier. I like Siwoo, which nothing says to play Siwoo here except I think he could flick the switch, and I think this course could fit him. EVR, same thing. I can't get him right when I pick him. He misses a cutter, does terrible. When I don't, he does well. But I like EVR. I think Grillo, if you want to know who to pick out of those three, I would go with Emiliano Grillo. You get to the 8,000 range. I'd say, out of these three guys, I would, CT Pan. I'm a big fan of. I'd probably occasionally in CT Pan over Shank, if you want my opinion there. Sebastian Munoz, just a pure. The guy's a good golfer. I'll just keep saying that. It's hopefully, you can see he's kind of making a little bit of comeback from that 3 missed cuts. And for 7,300, I think he's probably the best value on the board. You got Norlander, Patty Perez again. Watch, he should not quit. Like I said, it's 4 days. You just play, so don't worry about that. Troy Merritt, kind of think this reminds me of a Troy Merritt course. Sadoshi Gadai, I think it's a good bet. And then kind of rounding out my top kind of value plays. So Sadoshi, Sung Kang, Kyle Stanley, Sean Norris, and then Wes Bryant. I think you're getting a good price because he's, he was hurt. And has he ever played here before? No. But, he was playing decent golf before the injury. All right. Well, that said, let's wrap this thing up. Okay. So, again, I think for all interests and purposes, I, wasn't the best show I've ever done, but I just don't have a lot of the information, as a lot of the guys don't, that they would want to really do some deep analysis. And also the field's kind of weak, comparative. But taking that aside, I think there is some opportunities here from a larger DFS perspective. Like I said, I recommend doing the stars and scrubs. I think there is some value down at the board, and you're getting 4 days of them. And also, I think, ultimately, if Colin Morikawa or Xander, if one of the top 5 guys, decides to go win this thing, they're going to win it. Plain and simple. So with that said, please click the like button, share it with anybody else. I thank you for spending some time with me. Again, I'm off by like 50 subscribers, so I'm still, really hoping to get to that 1,000 mark. So if you are new, or if you've been watching me just for recently and you've not subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button. If you're not signed up with YouTube, please do. It's not a big thing. Put your name, your email, and hit that subscribe button. And last but not least, if you have anything for me, any questions, hit me up on YouTube comments or follow me at DFS Golf Guru. Again, I am connected to PGA Tour Communications and PGA Tour Media. So anything that comes across my desk, I will get out from withdrawals or any of that stuff. So with that said, thank you guys so much. Have a great tournament. I'm only doing this show for the ZOZO, of course, because it's firing up tomorrow. And the best of luck to you guys. And I will talk to you guys next week. All right, take care.